Hello and welcome back to Healing the Healer, the series. As mentioned in the previous episode, this is the art of New Age healing, and our current focus is healing through storytelling. We have today with us a young lady that has Facebook buzzing on a weekly basis. So with me today is Nomcebo Khanyile Sithebe. I got the name right? So
Yes, you did.
I would like you to tell your story. And I think first up will be, why do you have a double barrel surname? Or is it a clan name? We're about to discover who Nomcebo is and what is her story behind her storytelling. So Nomcebo, the viewers
Okay.
out there, they're ready to hear your story. Who is
Okay.
Nomcebo?
Okay. Sanbonani, abangaziyo nabangangazi. Okay, so yes, my name is Nomcebo Khanyile Sithebe. It's actually Nomcebo Sithebe
Okay.
on the birth certificate and my ID, and it's my dad's surname, right?
Okay.
But you know how like African traditions are, like when things have not been done traditionally.
Yes.
So I'm not supposed to be Sithebe. I'm supposed to be a Khanyile.
Mm.
So previously on Facebook, I was Nomcebo Sithebe, but it was just a personal decision I took on my side.
Yes.
I want to honor my mom's ancestors, I guess, in a
Yeah.
way. And then I just decided to use both surnames to not offend my father as well, because it's going to be like, because he's my friend on Facebook. So he
Mm-hmm.
sees Nomcebo Khanyile all of a sudden, and he's just going to be so surprised to raise this Sithebe now. So
Ow.
yeah, that's how Nomcebo Khanyile Sithebe came about.
You are brave. You are friends with your father.
I don't have a choice because he finds us everywhere. So yeah,
Okay. Okay, so he's one of those fathers.
yeah, he is.
All right. I think very similar to my mother. My mother is my friend and follows me everywhere. And before I would be cautious about what I post, thinking, she's going to now come and ask, what are you posting? What is this about? But then lately I found that she posts more funny videos than I have. She's got more memes than I do. She's got more stickers than I do. So yeah, now I get shocked when I see some of her posts. But now that
Yeah,
that is wonderful. I like the fact that you're so close to tradition and you're following culture and you're so considerate, which means that you have different roles that you play. So we know you, or I know you as Nomcebo, the writer on Facebook, but you've introduced us to Nomcebo, the daughter, as well as the sister who's got a mother. So what other roles does Nomcebo play? And how is she different on Facebook versus at home?
I'm mostly the same person. I think what she says, what she gets with me. But the other roles I have, I guess, yes, I'm a twin. I have a twin sister.
Ooh.
She has a child that is troublesome, and he's growing older. He's like 4 months, and
Four
he thinks he's
months.
an adult.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 4 months,
4 months is an
he,
adult.
he thinks he's an adult. He doesn't listen. He's
Okay.
like, I'm at that stage where you guys cannot tell me what to do. I'll feed myself. I'll bite your lips. He's so naughty.
Okay.
So yeah, but I love him. I'm not sure if that makes me an aunt
Mm.
in English. Oh, mamngane, but my mom says mamngane, so I guess
Yes.
yeah, mamngane. And then the other role, as I said before, I'm planning, if I'm not doing any internship next year, then I want to go back to school to
Okay.
either study psychology,
Mm-hmm.
because even in my stories, I guess I quite like, finding or getting to the root of the inner person. So
Yes.
besides what you see,
Mm-hmm.
like your side,
Yeah.
what makes you you, childhood traumas and all that.
Mm.
So yes, either that or education. So with education, where I stay, I usually help kids with homeworks, and
Okay.
hence I say, Ruti, I'm more patient with the little ones because I have experience with them on my side. I usually help them with their homeworks.
Yes.
And yeah, those are the roles I play at home.
Okay. Without jumping into who you are on Facebook, so I'm just triggered by the helping with homework. So you like a Tateho type of person and a Chris type of person.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay, no,
I'm exactly that.
we'll explore more about that a bit later, but we're still getting to know you. So tell me, are you from Bongolwan?
I am, but closer to Nhlaganipo's, like, what's the word? English runs away sometimes. But I'm
But
closer to
Taganipa's
where,
homestead.
yes,
Um,
Mpundumane. So there's this
okay.
place, it's called Mpundumane. So I'm around that area. Bongolwan is quite a distance away from where I grew up in.
How far is that from the central KZN? Because I think most people, when they think about KZN, they're thinking, yes, we know that there's names to these different areas, and but most people, when they think KZN, they're thinking, I'm going to Durban, I'm going to
Mm,
Mlazi, that's it.
mm,
So where is
okay.
the two areas that you mentioned?
Uh, Let me not. Yeah, I'm not familiar with KZN.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with KZN, but yeah, it's it's even embarrassing because my mom would say, if my twin and I were to go to KZN on our own, we'd
Yes.
get lost
Oh
because we're so
my.
used to Johannesburg that it's like but now I think I quite recognize, so I know it's okay. From Park Station, there's a show taxi rank. You see the place that says a show taxi rank. You ask for taxis that take you to Mbongolwane or Mpundumane,
Yes.
then that's how you. But as for how you find Mbongolwane, Shem, I do not want to lie. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure. I just
Okay.
know that I take a taxi from Park Station to a show
Mm-hmm.
to Mbongolwane.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is Mbongolwane where you from and now you're based in Joburg?
Yes,
Oh, all
that's where
right.
I'm from. That's where my mom grew up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where when we're going home, we go to Mbongolwane.
Ah, okay. So being between the two places, and these are the two places that your story talks about. So did you actually meet those characters between these two places?
Ah, okay, so not really. Nhlaganipo's character is based on a cousin of mine.
Ooh.
Um,
So there is
he's
a
based
dark, handsome guy.
like his character to the T. Nhlaganipo's character is based on a cousin.
Okay.
And the cousin's life, you see, like the granny, the many kids,
Yes.
it's exactly like that in real life. So his grandmother who
Mm-hmm.
was married to an uncle of mine, and then there's like a lot of kids. So
Yes.
Nhlaganipo's life is based on this cousin's life.
Mm.
Yes, and then as for about the other characters, Chris, Sibani, Nobizita, all of them, they made up. But what inspired them was Brokeback Mountain.
Ah,
Because
okay.
I watched Brokeback Mountain, and then I enjoyed it. Like it's my favorite LGBT movie. So I
Okay.
always think about Brokeback Mountain. And then I think I was in a show. Wait, no, I was in Bongolane this one time, and then I was just like staring into the distance,
Mm.
the green pastures, the trees and the fields.
Yes.
And I saw this big tree, and then I don't know it. I guess inspiration sort of like came
Yes.
about that way. I was looking at this big tree, and I was like, I wonder if there'd be some Ennis and what's the other character's name from Brokeback Mountain? I forgot, but yeah. I just pictured it in my head, something along those lines, but in a rural setting, rural South
Yes.
African setting.
Okay. You know how old that movie is, and I'm for watching whatever type of genre. But when it came to the movie, and as famous as it was, and the controversy that came about or around the movie, I only got to watch it, I think, 2 months ago. I think I've heard it on my system for the longest time, and I just couldn't get myself to watch it. I've watched every other thing, but that
Hmm.
particular movie, that was the key and the theme, and it got everybody talking. I only watched it 2 months ago, and I won't even recall the names of the characters. It was that touching. I think I was too attached to the story and their pain, especially like the end. Oh yeah, no, I felt
Yeah,
it,
at the end, it's yeah.
and I
I
detached from it because that's how painful it got for me. I'm one of those very, very imaginative people, so I think I attach myself. I'm an empath, so I attach myself very easily to the feeling behind every action, and I find that a lot with you, which take us to the platform where I met you, which is social media. But let's start from the beginning of social media. So before you were inspired to start your first story and now you're on the third story, why did you even join social media?
yeah, I was young, I guess, and it was cool, like as a high schooler,
Yes.
to have Facebook, and I guess having not strict parents, because my mom is not that strict. However, when you come from like a sort of like disadvantaged background,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really have all the nice things that other kids have, you just jump at the opportunity to grab onto whatever um, the other cool kids have, I guess.
Yes.
So when everyone was talking about Facebook at high school, like in my high school, then I also decided that I wanted a Facebook. So it was just, I guess we can also say peer pressure
Yeah.
when you're in high school and you just, everyone has Facebook. So you also have to have it because it's free. So
Okay. And now with social media, did you get in just for making friends, posting pictures? How did you get exposed to Facebook stories?
um okay, so as far as Facebook stories go, I'm not going to lie. I'm not really familiar
Mm-hmm.
with Facebook stories. Because I usually read either PDFs or novels. So
Okay.
those are the kinds of stories that I was exposed to. But
Yes.
I'd see when you're on Facebook and you're scrolling, and sometimes you get an advertisement of a
Mm-hmm.
particular story written by a certain author. But I think because I usually read LGBT reads, so
Oh.
I wasn't sure. You see, there were such books on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I came across Pumza Shabangu's
Okay.
books,
Yes. Yes.
but it was last year. And the first one I read on my side was Illicit Love at the time she called it.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Now it's something about you. So that's
Yes.
the first story that I got into and that I enjoyed on Facebook. That was the first story that hooked me on Facebook because
Yes.
it resembled novels. Like it looked like a
Mm-hmm.
usual novel. The only difference was that it was on Facebook.
Yes. Yes.
But yes, that's how I got into it. It was her book. It was that novel, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure how I'm sure it was through an advertisement somewhere, and then I
Okay.
just decided to give it a shot.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So you read a couple of stories. So yes, you were exposed to Pumza, who also happens to be one of my friends. I'm hoping that I'll get an interview with her after this because I have a long list of people that I want to talk to that are interesting on Facebook. And I suppose for me, my history with Pumza was that after I read Google Stories, I then got, yes, introduced to my first gay story, if I can put it that way, with Pumza. But you caught it much later on. So I started with her on Unspoken Truth, her
Mm-hmm.
first published book. She started it on Facebook. and we were all part of a group. We called ourselves the Strummers. So that's another story, because Facebook stories, as much as it sounds like a concept and it's an easy read a story on Facebook, but there's actually a big community, which I think you've got to meet through your group. And we'll
Yes.
touch on them a bit later. Hopefully we can bring some of your readers on board so they can tell you their vision of how they read your story. But we then had this group that grew, and personalities came into it, and friendship blossomed from this Strummers group. And we followed Pumi's stories. Like, I was so involved. I was one of her admins at one point throughout her writing. And she went from writing on Facebook to then actually publishing. We will never forget the day that she decided, I'm stopping the story, I'm going to publish. Dude, it was like somebody, like that story that says the Grinch that stole Christmas. It felt like that, literally.
I get you. It's heartbreaking. I felt the same way with illicit love, because
Yes,
I don't know why, but her books are blocked a lot, like the LGBT books. They
yes,
cancelled a lot on Facebook. So I was enjoying the story, like I was into it.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden she's like, I'm stopping because someone reported the page, and I'm like, I was so sad. I
yes.
was very sad.
Okay. So we touched a bit on your influence in terms of the reading bit. But now what I want to find out is what then inspired you to pen or type your very first chapter.
Okay. So
Transitioning.
when you want to write, you procrastinate sometimes because you're so scared of putting yourself out there. Like, I think I had the first insert of Mutual Desires for a while, but I was
Yes.
just scared to put it on Facebook.
Okay.
But I think what really pushed me, I've told someone else before, as I said, with Illicit Love, when I was reading it on Facebook, and then it got cancelled, like it got taken down. So I was just like, I don't know, I guess it was a way of consoling myself by
Yes.
putting my own story on Facebook. So I guess we can say, in a way, that story inspired me to put my story on Facebook, but I wasn't sure. Hence, I think one of the main things I said when I first began Mutual Desires was, please do not report. Please do not. If you do not like the story, then just
Yes.
do not do anything. Leave. Because I was so hurt by her story that, yeah, I guess I got the bravery to put mine on Facebook.
Okay, that's wonderful. So that would be your inspiration. Do you have anything else or anyone else that inspires you other than the point of writing?
Usually I'm most inspired when I go home.
Okay.
When I go to KZN, I think that's where I'm most inspired, especially when I observe like the men around
Yes.
me. As I said, Uti, Nhlakanipho's story was inspired by cousin. So usually I'm just inspired when I go home to KZN, that setting. I make sure to pay attention to the setting, what it looks
Okay.
like, everything that takes place at home, so that I can put it on paper on my story. So when I go home, I'm inspired a lot than when I'm in Johannesburg, because I guess rural people, especially males, are
Yes.
like a different breed of men
Yes.
compared to the ones from like here in Johannesburg, in a way. So I'm usually just inspired when I go home and
Okay.
I observe the people around.
So in terms of your cousin as your inspiration, was it just observing his life, or do you actually sit down and talk to him and figure out his thoughts and emotions? Like, dude, why are you acting like this? Like, who is your Siabonga? So when you go by the tree.
Okay. With my cousin, he's so uptight. Like he's very uptight. Hence I said he inspired Nhlakanipho's seriousness, I guess.
Yes.
He's uptight. I observe the way he is around people, the way he interacts with them, how they interact with him,
Yes.
how the little ones interact with him. He's like that leader at
Yes.
home, because there's no men where, like, in his homestead, he's the only male, and then there's Ukoko, and then there are the kids. So yeah, I observed that, how he interacts with others, how others interact with him. So I don't really try to get into his thoughts.
Okay.
Tight. He's
Uh-huh.
uptight, so yeah, and that's all I know about him.
I think that's incredible. The fact that you can observe people and then impose emotions and thoughts into their actions as you observe them. That's creativity. I'm really, now I'm inspired by it. Well, I'm inspired by a lot of what you write, but I think the thought process behind it, that is really, really amazing. But what is the interest in writing about men? So what motivated you to actually come up with your storyline
Okay.
and to
So as I
actually put it
say,
out there? Because I think that's brave. I think for the first time when I started reading your story, I thought this must be a guy. Like females can't really express themselves so deeply.
mm, okay. As far as inspiration goes, writing male characters, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think I that's my weak point in a way. Like, I don't know, but I feel like it's a weak point of mine. Like pouring the male's
Yes.
characteristics or the personality or his thoughts and whatever onto paper. I feel like I struggle with that. So it always surprises me when people, especially with mutual desires, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people thought I was a guy.
Yes.
And it was just surprising. Uh, but I try to become the character, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I put myself in the character's shoes, especially the like Yontlaganypo types. Uh, but it also has to do a lot. Like, I like to research, I like to read. As I said, if I'm not doing education,
Mm-hmm.
then I'd like to do psychology,
Yes.
because psychology allows you to tap into someone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to see beyond what the person is showing you.
Yes.
So, in terms of my research, especially when it comes to male characters, I research a lot on the psychological. So,
Mm-hmm.
what makes a person like Nhlakanipho, who's uptight, tick? Why is he
Yes.
violent? Um, why is he closed off
Mm-hmm.
emotionally? And then characters like Sibani, characters like Nobizita and
Mm.
Stalo, like,
Yes.
okay, why is Sibani different from this brother?
Mm.
Why are they, like, the personalities different, even though they grew up in the same home, things like that. But usually when I'm writing my male characters, I research on psychology a lot. So I don't think it really has to do with the gender. I
Yes.
think for me, or the way I see it, it has nothing to do with gender.
Mm.
It's more psychological. Why does this person behave the way they behave? I think that, yeah, that's how I write my characters. It has nothing to do with, okay, how does a man think? Does he look at boobs? Does he look at, ass? What attracts
Yes.
a man? No, it's usually just what makes an off-close person the way they are. Why are they
Mm-hmm.
uptight? Why are they violent? Why are they quick to be this way and that way? So it's never really about the person as a man. It's just about the side, what's
Yes.
inside. Why are they the way they are?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And you capture your characters so well. Sometimes there's that blur line between what is real and what is this online created character. I mean, you got all of us believing that the triplets are actually Anthony Joshua. Like when we see Anthony Joshua now, he's become a Ngobi Zita, Escalo, Esbani. How do you differentiate? At what point do you sit back and be like, okay, so now this is me being Nomcebo, Sibani out of my mind?
Characters, for me personally, I'm not sure about other writers,
Mm.
but characters never really leave me. So sometimes I'm sleeping
Yes.
or I cannot sleep and they just randomly pop up
Yeah.
in my mind, or when I'm watching a movie or reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll just see a certain character. Maybe I'll see Siyabonga
Yes.
through this person's actions in a movie,
Oh,
for
yes.
example. So they don't really leave me on my side. They just they always there.
Mm.
But yeah, they don't leave me even at home.
Yes.
They don't. They always there. I'm not sure how to separate. They just always there. They randomly pop up, but they always at the back of my mind, like, okay, this person on this movie is behaving like Christoph.
Yes.
So it's always that on my side.
Okay, I know your sister is your biggest fan. Does your dad actually read your stories?
No, no, he'd have uh they old fashioned like my
Okay.
parents. So
Mm.
even my mom, because
Yeah.
she knows I write LGBT books, but she'll like constantly complain, especially now because like my twins child, my nephew, his name is Span.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
anytime, yeah, so anytime I'm talking about like Span from my book, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be like, you ufuna ukumashumtana. Why wish you're so? You know, like it's I don't know. I don't want to call them homophobic, but you know, we have those people that are
Yes.
like, I'm not homophobic because I do not discriminate towards gay people because I accept them. But she's like Makati Day in a way, but she's not vicious.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
just like, you gay. I do not want any gay person or any gay child in my own family, but it's fine if they
Ah,
gay.
yes.
Is a
Be gay
neighbor's gay
away
kid.
from my house.
Yes, not in my house. It's fine in other households.
Yes.
So they would never ever read my books because they'd just be like, you traumatize us.
Yes.
That's what they always say. So they wouldn't.
Totally, totally get it. And and with you, in terms of you have online people that you've met, have you made any real life friendships?
Mm, okay, as far as friendships go, I have, but she's a fellow writer. We just haven't met in real life,
Okay.
but we talk a lot over the phone on WhatsApp. We talk about our stories. We talk about ideas. We're planning to write a story together
Okay.
sometime next year. Yeah, I think she's like the main person that I befriended on Facebook. And then there are others as well that will send that once in a while WhatsApp that's just like, good job, you're
Yes.
doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, a random message, we love what you're doing, we love your work. So I also appreciate those people that just pop up once in a while
Mm-hmm.
because especially for me, I'm not sure for others, but I know for writing takes a lot like it takes
Mm.
a toll
Yes.
on me. Like so sometimes I just meet that person that's like, good job. I guess it's my anxiety
Yeah.
that makes me that way. But yeah, there are those people that just pop in once in a while. They like, good job, you're doing good. I
Yes.
appreciate them.
Okay. So let's chat through your very first story, the beginning of Nomcebo the writer, the hidden face behind the Desire series. You began with Mutual Desires. So
Mhm.
who were you trying to talk about there? Was it always the four characters?
It was, although with Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga, they were not supposed to have their own story. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want, like, the main thing, as I said, was just to put mutual desires after illicit love, because illicit love was taken down. So I I wrote Mutual Desires. I didn't expect it to blow up if it did blow up,
Yes.
but yeah, I did not expect it to, have such a positive response.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a story that I was just like, okay, let me put this on Facebook. But the 4 characters were always there, like Siyabonga, Nhlakanipho, Nobizita, Chris. It's just that Siyabonga and Nhlakanipho were never supposed to have their own story, but there were people that actually liked them. And I
Yes.
also liked them. I also liked them.
I think
So
in
I
a
was
way
just
they
like,
took over, and
yeah,
the
they
story.
did.
Hmm?
Yeah, they did take over. So I was just like, let me continue and write their own story. And then this one that I'm writing now, so it was never supposed to be a story. It was just supposed to be Mutual Desires, but then Mutual Desires gave birth to the other 2 and
Okay.
the spin-off.
Yes. So who were the people that you initially thought would mutually desire each other? Was it just Ngobizita and Chris?
Yes, because Usiyabonga and Nhlakanipho, I think when I first began that story, their relationship was supposed to be kind of toxic.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be quite toxic, and I was torn between uh having Nobizita step in to be Siyabonga's knight in shining armor, I guess.
Ooh.
But uh, but you and then Chris came about. And then I just liked him with Chris. Like I just changed my mind, and I was just like, I like this guy with Chris.
Yes.
They have. I feel like they. I'm obsessed with the idea of soulmates.
Yes, you
Even
are.
in stories.
Mm.
So each person has to have their own soulmate. So I was just like, no, Nhlakanipho will be this violent person because Bella is introduced as a violent person.
Yes.
But Siyabonga will be his exception, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's where I changed my mind. And then Chris, yeah, because I just love them the way they are. Like I love them the way they are.
Yes.
So each person is their own soulmate. They know they're not. Yeah, I'm just obsessed with the idea of soulmates. I'm obsessed with the idea of I do not like cheating partners in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in my stories, like I do not like partners that have to suffer a lot.
Yes.
That have to, the cheating, as I said, the backstabbing where this guy is sleeping with this guy, then
Mm-hmm.
I just do not like that. So I left them as they are for that very reason, which I do not want anyone to cheat on anyone else. When Nhlakanipho, you'll be with your Siyabonga, it's fine.
Yes.
When at Chris, you'll Nobizita, it's fine.
Okay. And it's interesting that you had the 3 boys that were friends, and that is the beginning of the story that you get to tell us. And then you break through the story with bringing a Chris who just was meant to come visit, and he changed the whole series, if I can put it that way, because it wasn't expected. We had a Ngobizita who was a player, and he had all these old women that he was a sugar baby to, and then I think for me Chris even brought out a Makatite, for example. It brought out the character of Ubaba Ngobo, and it brought out the teachers and their characters. Like everything just felt like, oh, it's these 3 boys that go to school, they're each keeping secrets from each other, but now this person just becomes the catalyst to the story blowing up, and up to the point where you finished Mutual Desires and realized that some of the characters are overtaking each other, and you had to sit, analyze, and come back and give us then the PDFs where you separate even though they're one unit or one click. So what was it? Well, what got you to that point of saying, okay, now the characters are blowing up, I need to rewrite the story?
Okay, which one?
For both. I mean, you had Mutual Desires, you finished it, and then you wanted to do the second part of the series, and then you decided to rewrite it. What was the breakthrough to say, now I'm becoming a different writer altogether?
Okay, so with Mutual Desires was fairly simple
Mm-hmm.
to quite right. I mean, like, it was challenging in some parts, like you do research, but as far as telling Nobizita and Chris's story, I think
Yes.
that was quite simple. And then we come to Dominate Desires, and some people liked Sibani and Tatejo from Mutual Desires, but we didn't know much about them. We just knew it's okay. Sibani is this guy who's almost like Nobizita in the sense that Naye, he seduces old women for
Yes.
money that he uses on Tatejo. So people were like, some people, let me not say people, some people were drawn to Sibani and Tatejo. So I was like, okay, let me merge, as we'd done with Mutual Desires when we had bonus inserts.
Yes.
But it was a different thing altogether, because with Mutual Desires, it was just bonus inserts where a random idea would pop up and I'd put it in the story. Now with Dominate Desires, it's two storylines in one book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have the idea, okay, this is Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga's story, it's supposed to go this way.
Yes.
This is Bani and Tatejo's story, it's supposed to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the line, I don't know, but Sibani and Tatejo just took over, especially Sibani, like, because it's like, out of all the characters, Sibani is in my brain a lot. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
But
The fake
like
prophet.
constantly. Yes, so he's constantly in my brain. So I ended up somehow pushing his story a lot, and Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga just felt like background characters in their own story. And because once I'm near the end, when the end is nigh and I'm going to finalize the story, I like to go back before the prologue and ask for feedback. So I ask for feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? Constructive criticism, things like that. So I went back with Dominate Desires and did the same thing. And a lot of people were like, yeah, Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga were lost somewhere in the story. Sibani and Tatejo took over. You did not touch up on the brothers and the bond that Nhlakanipho had created with his own brothers. So I was just like, you know what? I agree.
Yes.
I'll separate the stories once and for all, so that I also do not lose sight of what's going on with each person's story. Because Siyabonga, no, Sibani and Tatejo's story was fairly simple, but Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga, it got muddled. Like, I did not know what was going on. So I think that's the constructive criticism that they gave me also played a part in me saying, let me split the stories, because it was just, I also felt like I didn't do Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga justice. Like, they deserved better. I don't know, like, I always tell, I do not want to have favorite characters, but Tatejo is like my personal
wow.
I always want to, I don't know, I just imagine him as this, like, fragile, like glass. I imagine him as glass.
Oh my gosh. And the picture you use, it makes us feel like he is that thing to hold and protect. Oh my word. It is really relatable.
So I felt like I didn't do Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga's story enough justice. So this is why I decided to separate, along with the constructive criticism that I got. So I think that's what inspired me to just separate both stories and have both of them tell their own stories without being interrupted by someone else.
Great. And I think I like the fact that, your way with words and your way of painting a picture makes the characters so relatable, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you got straight female rooting for gay men and their lives and their emotions and fighting for them, and fighting you to ensure that they're treated well and fairly, and you get to that point of this is the story that I'm telling versus this is the story that we want to read. And if we're talking about your story and how I think we've related from the very first character introduction to where you are now, but we'll touch on the last one much later because I like the audience interaction more about it. But from the beginning, did you, in creating the series itself, you mentioned that you are into soulmates, so you are fascinated by the stories around soulmates. Is that your theme?
Pardon? Is that mine?
Is soulmateship your theme?
Oh, yes, I guess so, because but it touched more on inevitable desires.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I really touched more on soulmates. But even before then, like mutual desires through conversations, especially with Siyabonga and Hlakanipho, they usually talk of themselves as these soulmates, these
Yes.
people that are meant to be together. And then as Chris and Nobizita evolved, as they grew into their feelings as well, I think they also reached that point where it's like me and you are meant for each other and no one else. So yeah, as I said, it's just this thing of, I want these two people together. They should stay together like this. They should be happy, even if they fight, but they should not be a third factor, except for the last story. But these three, mutual, dominate, and inevitable.
Yes.
There shouldn't be any third factor or third person that comes into. I'm just not a big fan of third factors.
Yeah.
People coming. Coming into relationships. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay. So this statement I find quite interesting because you introduced, I mean, for me, Ngobizita, I did not believe we'll end up with Chris at the end. I was rooting for them, but the way they fought, the things the obstacles they faced, and the fact that they kept hurting each other. But I suppose in reality, other than we thinking that soulmate is like a fairy tale story, but you painted the fact that soulmate is that person that becomes your mirror so much that you learn about your good parts and your bad, and you then make a decision of whether you're going to heal together and get to the point of now this is everlasting. I mean, the way you painted the stories behind soulmates with Usbani and Tateho, man, you had us in tears at times. Like, I especially loved the fact that you would tell that in the many lifetimes, they kept meeting, and this time this one hurts this one, and that time that, because you are very, very creative about the soulmate thing. It's not just like, okay, so my theme is soulmate and boy meets girl or boy meets boy, and they love each other, they fight, they get back together happily ever after. No. So you get in depth, which now, beyond just the theme of your stories, is what fascinates me, is the process that you go through, because you went through a story with two people that kept fighting with Nobizita and Chris. You gave us Nhlakanipho and Siyabonga, and then their story of soulmates was, we now in love, we are going to spend forever, and then there's a 10-year gap, and now because reality is, if I should tell you, I was rooting for Skalo and Siyabonga. I didn't know this. I wrote it over and over. I was like, let Nhlakanipho go with his soulmate card. Can Skalo get a break? Because he really, for me, like that's soulmate love, but it's a view. So your process of putting the stories together and frustrating us, like how do you sit down and decide I'm gonna frustrate them until they love the character and hate me and hate the character and love me and then the end?
uh, okay. So before, as I said, before I got into Facebook stories, I like to read a lot. So aside from the people around me, I draw inspiration from books. So especially with the soulmate trope. So there are sites, I
Yeah.
guess, where fan fiction, yes, sorry, fan fiction. So for example, if you've watched Marvel, and then people like, for example, Captain America and Bucky Barnes together.
Yes.
So you'll find fan
Soulmate.
fiction on those. Yes, soulmate stories. Okay, Bucky Barnes and Captain America like each other. So I draw inspiration from that. But with Tatejo and Sban, I think it was one of the final things. Like I didn't plan on them being together. It's just one of those things, the same way as Zito with Chris. Because Bunny, especially in the first like dominant desires where I did not edit, Bunny was so, I mean, like he still is, mentally there's loose screws in there.
Yes.
But in dominant desires, the original one, it was worse. And he didn't deserve Utatejo.
Yeah.
In that,
I agree.
that's how I feel. So I didn't plan it out that way, but like the more you write, because I do not like, I'm not that person who sits and outlines which, okay, today's insert is going to be about, okay, I do have the picture in my mind, which, okay, this is what I'm going to write about today. But I do not like to plan, like outline, which from this scene, it's supposed to go to this, and from this to that, and then post. I'm that person who sits down and I let my hands do the work. So along the way, I don't know, I just I liked Usman. So I felt like let me give him his own redemption arc. Let me let me let him redeem himself. So let me let him go through the breakup and whatever. But then the idea of soulmates, it popped into my mind. Okay, what if they soulmates? What if they go through this and that together, but they keep on like choosing to be like, okay, we'll be done. You're walking away. I'm going to get married. You're going to continue with your acting career. And so it was just an idea that popped into my mind through, as I said, fan fiction, because I read a lot of fan fiction on my side. And honestly, I feel like fan fiction is where you are more inspired to be like creative, because the things they come up with, like I remember in Dominate Desires, the girl, she mentions Mpreg. And when you come to Facebook, there's no Mpreg. It's like they'll look at you like your face, like, what the hell? What is Mpreg? What are you talking about? But I read a lot of those stories on my side. Get really push you to be the same way, I guess. So,
Awesome. I think one of the treasures I found with the theme that you brought on, or the theme that developed as you were writing, was your ability in terms of relatability. I think not a lot of writers, when they tell a story, happens to sell you the face as well. I mentioned earlier that when I look at Anthony Joshua now, all I see, and it's funny how I see his face, which remains the same, but it embodies all the three Ngobo boys. Anthony looked so much like Ngobi Zita when we were still going through Mutual Desires. Anthony the boxer was Esbani, you know. So I don't know if he then became your inspiration to get Sibani into this boxing aspect of a character. I have no idea, but he embodied. Oh, Anthony! Like Anthony must know that whatever he does in real life is acting up the Noble Boys in fiction. And now the pictures that you bring about make Anthony become Usqalo. Like you see the frustration on Usqalo's face when you're looking at that picture. So it's one of the things that I treasure about your writing, how you bring characters to life, not just in the imagination. Because some people will say, no, tell me the character, I'll imagine what they look like. And then you manage to create the character and link them so much to the face you've picked or chosen to represent three people. And every time they look different. Like I can actually see when I look at Anthony, like, no, this is the version of Anthony that's funny. This is the version that is this. So in terms of your space, was it intentional to have your characters so distinct that they look like, or like that whole process? Do you pick a picture and say, okay, you look like the character I'm writing about, or do you look at a picture and say, if this picture represents my character, this is how I'm going to tell the story?
Okay, so as far as imagination goes, I guess I'm quite lazy to have writers. You know, when they say you'll think up what the character looks like on your own. So I think that influenced me to actually put like a face to the name. But also Wattpad, because I also read on Wattpad a lot. And on Wattpad, most of the stories that I read, they will show you the picture. Okay, this is my Sibani, for example.
Yes.
So that made me lazy in a way to read other stories where I cannot see the person. Like I need to see who I'm reading about so that I can better imagine their actions and what they're doing and things like that. So even in my writing, I cannot, except for this PDF that I'm planning, because I could not find a picture to properly depict the character that I want. But as far as the other stories go, I definitely need a picture. So even before I start writing, I need a picture. This is my Sibani. This is Sibani. And then I start writing like, yeah, I guess we can say Anthony Joshua didn't spy me because he's all I saw. He's all I saw. Even when when I was writing Chris and I was describing Umlobizita, like this tall giant.
Yes.
All this is he's good looking, he's whatever. It just, when I saw Anthony Joshua's picture, there's this picture specifically that I saw and I was just like, yeah. We are going to be the triplets. So, yeah. I just need a picture to paint.
Okay. It makes sense. It makes total sense to me. And now I'm fascinated. Minus, the pictures you have embody the character so well. I think one of the ones that I treasure, for example, is then the Ngobo triplets and how they are well represented. Then there's Demasigo. My goodness. At what point did you decide? Because the treasure of your latest story is how well you talk through transgender issues. Again, you're embodying emotions about a different aspect, because you got us so used to gay couples and then you bring in transgender and you made us all fall in love. Like I know that I think one of the things that I need to highlight is that it takes a lot for us and besides being prejudice, it takes a lot for us black girls or just black people in general to accept ourselves, to see ourselves as beautiful, to fully take on who we are, without trying to get validation or approval or being liked. And then again, you bring us another giant. I think beyond the triplets, Temasigo is it. Okay, I see Spay, and it's not about being teams, but for me, how you brought, I mean, when you started off and talked about Ufuze Litle, I thought, okay, this is it, you're bringing in transgender, but I think Ufuze was still gentle. Yeah, with Temasigo, what was the point?
Okay. So with Udema, for a while I'd been wanting to write a trans story. Even I think when I was writing Dominant Desires,
Mm-hmm.
and when I think I'm not sure if I announced it around that time. I'd also write a third book. Oh, when I wrote Mutual Desires, I said it'd be a
Yeah.
trilogy. But I wasn't sure on the type of woman I wanted to introduce. I just knew she'd be trans. But I think the one thing that got to me with Temasigo is that usually, especially in stories, and this is not shading anyone,
Mm-hmm.
because we all write what we want to write, but you rarely find books that touch on, plus size females.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places. I'm not sure. Maybe it's me. But I rarely find books that touch on plus size women, and not just any plus size women, like the one that people say is imperfect, the imperfect one with the flabby skin, with the
Yes.
big thighs and the kiwi that people like to talk about. So as I was looking for this character, like that idea popped in mind, Lucy. I do not want someone who is perfect, who looks perfect to, I guess, the general public.
Yes.
Because we have our own perceptions and we have beauty standards, which in order to be beautiful, you need to be this kind of fat, you need to be curvaceous, you need to be, So yeah, and then again, as I said, the process I go through when trying to find a character, when writing a character, is I look for pictures. So I went to the internet, it was like black trans women. There were a couple of beautiful black trans women, but they still fit that beauty standard.
The image of the model and what's gorgeous, yes.
So I was just like, no. And then by chance, I found Jerry Jones. That's her name.
Oh
I
my
found her
gosh.
picture. And then I was like, okay, let me search her. I found her on Instagram, and I was like, yeah, the one.
She's perfect.
Yes, she's perfect. She's the one.
Breathing for you, you grab my brain, touch my back half for you,
but I didn't really know her personality. The loudness just came about, like it just, because not even allowed on my side, but I like how she pushes me to write her unfiltered,
yes.
like the way she is. She's like, this is me, take it or leave it. I really like that about her. I think I enjoy writing her for that very reason, Lucy. Mina and I, we're not the same. We're definitely not the same. In real life, I'd probably be friend Stesihle.
Yes.
I'd be like, Stesihle, girl, me and you are like this. Temasigo would be like, well, you're so loud, I can't stand you.
Yes.
But I like how she pushes me, like she's like, this is me, take it or leave it. I'm loud. I do this, I do that, I say this, I do not care. So yeah, I enjoy writing her character, but it's through her picture as well. As I said, when I saw the picture, I was like, this is the one. I don't want someone who fits beauty standards, someone who's too perfect, someone with a great body. No, I did not want that for this story. So yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. And I think I wanted to bring in the treasure that is Temasigo now, because I think there's two parts to cover. And before we get to the bigger question about your current story, including with Temasigo, is that previously you mentioned that with building the other three couples, so the Nomcebo boys and their partners, you wanted to show the fact that they're soulmates. You wanted to show the different ways that they love and get to and and what is the English word that I can use, to that space of peace in how they relate to their partners, and without the big personalities coming in, without now I'm angry, now I'm laughing. They're different personalities, but you paint them so well. And all this time you were talking about, I wanted them to stay faithful. So you wanted to portray couples that hardly cheat, because, well, Spani, we don't count. Spani is just crazy. Spani did a whole lot of shit, mind my French, but he then redeemed himself, like you mentioned earlier. So we used to you showing the fact that people can steer away from the right path or being monogamous, and then get to a point where they decide we're committing, and then they become faithful. And we know that you don't want partners who cheat, and then you bring Temasigo, Spesihle, and my Scalo, who's supposed to be with Siabo. So now we have a war in your space where you are literally shifting and playing devil's advocate with people's values. People that also believe people should not cheat, they should be in monogamous relationships. Firstly, people, well, I don't want to generalize, but how society has raised us, we've always known and focused on heterosexual relationships. So you ease us into homosexual relationships. Then boom, you decide that we must question our own values with a male, a female that is misbehaving, that is supposed to be a virgin, and a trans woman. Yeah, okay. Talk me through that process. What were you thinking?
Okay, so although it confuses some people,
Yes.
especially when they question the title of unrequited, but I actually liked the idea of Usalo, right? Being this guy who was infatuated with Usiyabonga. He loved Siyabonga for years, and it's
Forever.
unrequited love.
Forever.
It was unrequited. So, and then an idea popped in my mind, like, let's put him in the same situation. Let's have him have someone else pine after him. Let's have him go through the same things that Usiyabonga in a way went through.
Yes.
Although Usiyabonga did not go through much, because he discovered it much later. Okay, this guy's in love with me, but I wanted him to go through that phase of, okay, this person is in love with me, I am not in love with them.
Yes.
What do I do? What happens, like, so that now he could get, in a way, a better understanding of Usiyabonga. Although Ustalo, what I like about him is that he's not forceful. So he tells you something, like he told Usiyabonga, and he's like, okay, yes, I'm in love with you, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have to fall back in love with me. It's fine. I'm just telling you because you need to know. Done.
Listen.
So but I wanted him to go through the same thing that Usiyabonga went through, and I wanted him as well, because there's one of the final inserts, one of the latest inserts, when he tells us, I put you through the same thing that I went with Usiyabonga.
Yes.
But then with Nomcebo has, hence when I began the story, I introduced her as this leading lady, because she was always gonna be there, regardless of what's going on with Spesihle,
Yes.
whatever. She was just always going to be there, and hence I always I always, what's the word? But I always pointed out, or I always insisted on this point, ukuthi, Ustalo does not have time for labels. He said it in Dominant Desires, I think. He's not a person of labels. So I did not want them to think, okay, what's happening now? This person is attracted to a trans woman, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Damasiko was always going to be in the picture as a trans woman. She was always a trans woman. I did not envision someone else, any heterosexual or any woman with, a vagina.
Yes.
But yeah, she was just always going to be this trans woman who comes into his life. He was going to be taken by her as he is taken by her. And yes, basically with
Basically just came out of nowhere. Okay, no, not that she came out of nowhere. I think, one of the things when I talk about or mention people's values is that kind of the build up, because you give us a heads up of what's coming up next, and having been a fan of your work, I think people were expecting that. Okay, so Unrequited Love, we know it started with Siyabonga. Carlo couldn't have the love of his life. Like, okay, I'm stuck on that, but yes, let me move. And now I thought, so initially for me, example, when I was participating on this story, I figured, that you would have a Carlo who failed at getting, well, I think failed is not the right word, but he couldn't get the person that he loved. And then he found someone else. That's what I thought. Like, finally he's gonna be redeemed, he's going to meet the love of his life. And in your heads up, you were telling us about Demasigo. So I figured, okay, so moving from loving the Siyabonga guy, now you're going to be in love with this transgender person. But because also one of the things that I find is very great with how you write is how you link your stories and you link back and forth. So in a sense, Pe has always been there in the background until Makatide Jr. decided to push Pe into Stralo's life. So you had people that had an expectation, and then you influence us differently by bringing in the supposed leading lady that's supposed to now make Stralo happy, but then slowly build up Spear, who is again making Stralo happy. And now we're stuck, and now we have people that are fighting over who should be leading lady, because remember, this is supposed to be a monogamous relationship. Once again, influencing our values. Like, what did you sit down and think, okay, let me just get these people to pull their hair?
Okay, so with my stories, I tend to try my best to stay away from too much drama. Like, as I said, who cheated on who killed who did that. I usually push for like the educational part the most. So for example, with Mutual Desires, how boy kids can also be raped, and how females can also commit sexual harassment.
Yes.
We have Inevitable Desires with Sbani, with his sociopathy, and how the environment that we grow up in can influence these type of people that we grow up to be. And then with this one, I also wanted people to think, because like we have it, so as you said, ingrained in our brains, Guti, the idea of monogamy is that, okay, once you grow up, like this is all we know.
Yes.
You'll meet someone, this person will be your partner, they will complete you. They will complete you. You guys will have kids, marry, and live happily ever after, and that's it. You die, your kids do the same. It's a repetitive process of monogamy. You meet someone, they complete you, you die together. But I just wanted to do something different, I guess, with this story. I wanted to do something different with it to show there are different sides, even though how they got into this entanglement of of a trio
Yes.
was imperfect on Stalo Senkosi's part because he did cheat on Uspesihle.
Of
Even
course.
okay, others dispute that because apparently they were not dating. Okay, I get that. But yeah, I just wanted to move away from this idea of toxic, in a way, monogamy that says this person is the person that you're meant to be with. They will complete you, which is quite funny because people date, they break up, they find someone else to date. So it just goes to show which you can fall in love with multiple people at the
Yes.
same time. But the decision to stay monogamous lies with both of you. So I don't really think we are, okay, we can say we are monogamous, but I feel like it's a choice. Like it's a choice between two people. Okay, Tatejo, mina nawe, we're gonna be together. C2, we're not gonna involve other people. That's it. Because
Yes.
you can be in a relationship, but you still see someone else and you're like, wow, that
Yes.
girl, if I wasn't dating Nomcebo, I'd definitely be with that girl. So it's just a choice. It's a choice that lies with you. There's nothing about monogamy that says it's set in stone, which it's this thing that it's a choice. I feel like it's a choice.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to introduce Uchi. There's more than one way to have a relationship, and just because monogamy works for you, it does not mean it will work for the next person. As you see with Ustalo Senkosi, Uchi, Spesihle makes him happy.
Yes.
Demasiko makes him happy. They both perfect in his eyes. There's no one that, although people like to say, he loves this one the most, he loves because he did this. But honestly, for me, he just loves them differently for the different roles that they play in his life. Because, for the different roles, now, she reminds him of someone who was positive in his life.
Yes.
He loved his mother. When he sees Uspesihle, she's like the ultimate woman that he'd marry because this person reminds him so much of his mother. She's maternal. Everything about it is just. Then there's Utemasiko. She's like, she drives him insane. She does whatever she wants. She doesn't listen. But he still loves her and he's still drawn to her imperfections that he finds perfect, and that's okay. It does not mean it's a wrong way to relationship. It does not make him a whore.
A man whore. I really, really love the way that your readers support and participate. I mean, you actually have a group where people fight and fight and fight over how the story should be. Do they have any influence, though? I think going a bit back to influence, do they influence how you then tell your story? How did you get to not succumb to peer pressure of, let me change storyline because these people are now writing 10 posts about being Team Spay?
Okay. I feel like sometimes they do influence, like, it's hard not to be influenced. Even in comments, when people leave comments, it's hard not to. But on my side, the way they influence it is, for example, maybe someone will say, Ustalo loves Utemasiko because he bought Temasiko a car.
Yes.
So he doesn't love Spesihle because Spesihle didn't get a car. So they'll influence it in a sense that, okay, I'll introduce a scene where I try to show them, no, these people are equal or they're different, but he loves them both. So maybe he'll do something nice as well for Spesihle, so that they can see. I just try to make them understand these people are loved differently. There's no competition.
Yes.
So they influence it in that way, but they do not influence it on the plot or how the story should go or me changing my storyline. It's more about trying to show them these people are the same in his eyes. Try to warn them, guys, do not expect because it's not going to go the way you want. And sometimes they don't listen. It's unfortunate that they do not affect yeah, they do not influence the plot of the story.
Awesome. I think in terms of participation, right? So at times you have other writers that are your peer supporters, so they're also in your comments and they're always participating and whatever else. Do you find that in such how you relate to them as the fact that they're writers, or say for example you find Upumi Shabam commenting
Mhm.
about Temasiko versus Uspezil, does that kind of make you review it differently to an ordinary reader, or do relationships influence how you tell your story in any way?
Not really. As I said, it makes you happy when you see another like writer
Yes.
comment or share their input. But I find that with writers, most of the time, they do not try, or the ones that I've encountered, do not try to get you to change your story. Like, I don't know, but I haven't encountered people like that. Like, especially the one that I'm friends with. Okay, she likes Temasiko. She likes Temasiko a lot. Like, a lot of people like Temasiko. So she
Yeah.
likes Tema a lot.
No, because you
But
sold it
she
well.
yeah, but her opinions or what she likes about they do not really influence me with okay, I should do this or change
Mm,
whatever. Not really.
yes. You know, I find myself in your group, right? Posting so much. Like, I'm anonymous, but I post a lot. And I don't
Mhm.
have to tell you, like, but I post a lot. Because you know I deactivated my account. So I
Mhm.
am I'm another person on Facebook once again, and I post a lot. But sometimes then I get scared that, then mutual readers will think, but you actually owe us an insert and you're busy here reading about Temasiko and commenting. So, yeah, no, I really, really, I really get how people can get so stuck and so drawn into a story, and I think the benefits are a lot because I've learned a lot about the different types of relationships. I think sometimes part of the benefits in reading, other than the fact that it helps us escape, but it teaches us a lot, it shares a lot of information, and it helps that you do a lot of your research in order to tell your story authentically. Um, but have you picked up any benefits in your life with your
From
process
my
or the journey of writing?
yes, as I said, with writing, as you mentioned, research. I like to research a lot. It helps me understand people better. And it also helps me unlearn. For example, writing this story, I had to research a lot on trans women,
Mm-hmm.
what's transphobic, what's not, ways that you could offend trans people without even realizing, okay, I'm offending this person. This is a transphobic statement. So it also makes me more aware of the people around me. It helps me empathize better. It helps me understand people better. It helps me not to immediately judge a
Mm-hmm.
person. For example, uh, I learned your how you present yourself or how you appear. For example, if a person says they're trans and they
Mm-hmm.
look masculine,
Yes.
what they are is what they are. Wuti,
Mm-hmm.
I think they look like a man. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with me. If this person says I am a trans woman, I identify as a woman,
Yes.
body hair, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that does not mean anything. You should
Yeah.
respect the person for what they identify as. So yeah, I that's one of the reasons that I enjoy writing a lot. It
Mm-hmm.
helps me understand people, how to communicate with people, how to better, yeah, empathize with them, how to be more open-minded. It opens your mind to a lot of things, especially LGBT books. They teach you a lot on how to be more accepting,
Yes.
how to be more open-minded, how to unlearn internal transphobia, internal homophobia,
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy writing for that reason. It has helped me unlearn a lot of things.
Great. And I think for me, some of the benefits that then link to what I consider life lessons, right, is sometimes you would say, I'm not even just about transgender, but I'm not homophobic because I have gay friends. But until you tap into their thinking, understanding how they discriminated against, understanding sometimes that, oh gosh, I'm actually a hypocrite. I wouldn't allow this, or I didn't see something in this manner, and I act like I understand you, or I am with you in this fight, but literally I haven't taken the time to find out about how you're living. What are the social impacts that you face? What are your fears that you face? All of those issues. And I suppose one of the things that would not sound relevant, but we take as a joke, is even when Temasigo always says, yes, Carlo, I'm pregnant with 6 babies. Like, we laugh that off, but they actually are transgender women that's so weak to giving their partner 6 babies.
Exactly.
And we don't get to the depths of such discussions because we just want Scalo to say I love you to one person and one person only. But
Yeah.
as you've been teaching us through your themes and the different issues that you tackle, do you intentionally want to give some life lessons with every chapter that you write?
I aim for that. I I aim for it. As I said, I do my best. Like, I'm not the best at creating drama in my stories.
Mm-hmm.
I like them when they're educational. As I said, when you take something from them, when you think differently from how you previously thought. Like, maybe you're walking down the street and you see this person who is a trans woman, and maybe the first thing that would come to you is like, this guy is so cute, and then the person tells you, no, I'm actually a woman, and you'd be
Yes.
like, oh, okay, you are a woman, okay, I respect that. What's your name? Sally? Okay, Sally, nice to meet you. So most of the time I aim for lessons, Uchi. This is how we should be. This is how we should communicate with other people. This is how we should empathize with them. The issues that you mentioned on your side, how we don't really know them until you get inside their brains. These are the things that they go through. These are the issues that they face on their side. So once you tap into that mentality, okay, this person is like this because of this and that, these are the issues. I feel like it teaches you to be more empathetic, to be more understanding.
Yes.
So the next time you see a trans woman, you don't immediately judge, or you don't immediately, be standoffish or be rude. But
Yes.
because of, for example, you read Temasiko's life, what she goes through, her struggles as a woman, then helps you understand that person better. So I always aim for lessons on my side.
Awesome. I think you are, besides being a creative, you are such an intelligent person. And intelligence at times, I think we try to align it or link it to the number of certificates a person has. But for me, it's always about how open and willing are you to taking in new information, processing it inside, and not just taking it as words or just knowledge, but the point where you convert it to sharing it with your own feelings, with an intention of getting people to see things differently, to note the differences, to kind of act different. I don't think that when we share information, especially for a person that wants to be in psychology or even in education, you understand the fact that there's information, there's a recipient at the end of the line when I share that information. How it gets there is important in terms of you portraying the info, but how it's received, it's also not according to how you probably intended it, or also how you wanted it to land. So I think you play a great role in that balance. But in terms of now getting that information and your story out there, I know that you had PDFs that you were selling. How was that in terms of exposing your storytelling? PDFs versus people that want to then go publish. Why did you pick creating a PDF versus everybody who says, now let me write a book and take it to the store?
Okay. So as per advices from other writers, I feel like they do advise, even other readers, the people that read, they do advise you see this writing business is not easy.
Yes.
Especially if you are not that exposed or you're not that well known. So it's quite hard for you, even if you have PDFs, to get your name out there, to get people to actually buy your books, to buy my book.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I went the PDF route, because also as well with PDFs, especially with mutual desires, I didn't mind it being shared because I did post it on the group for free, because it gives you exposure, as you said. It gives you exposure. It introduces you to like a lot of people. So I think that's also why I went the PDF route. But the PDF route also proved that, again, if you're not that well known, then you're not going to be that, successful in getting your name out there, or maybe it's just that people like free things, I guess. Also
we do.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's also that part, Beauty. People expected to get the books for free, which I understand, but yeah, sometimes you just need to also make an income out of your own writing, especially when other people recognize you to, what, this is quality work, and sometimes you just want to get your work out there, but not for free, as people expect, I guess. But yeah, it did. I think with mutual desires, it gave me the most exposure. With these PDFs, it's only because a select few bought, not many people bought, which is also understandable.
As they get to know you. But there's other platforms. I mean, you are writing on Facebook, but there's then your Wattpad and your visionary writings. Are you looking at exploring those too? Because I know from Wattpad, for example, there's paid stories. Are you looking at such avenues to see if you can sell your work?
With Wattpad, I was advised that it does not pay that much, but there were hassles like from other South African writers that they had with Wattpad. It's like it's not as profitable. As far as visionary writings, I think I do have an account. I just never
never posted.
But I do have an account. Perhaps I'll look into it as well. But I just never understood. Like when I don't understand something, sometimes when I do not understand something or how it works, I just let it. I opened an account, but I did not understand what goes on and how it works.
And I think the more that you consider how you want to expose your work, because it is hard. Sometimes you have a story to tell, you have a lesson to share, but then you get stuck on how do I reach the masses? How do I get people to be as receptive? Because I think one of the things I learned through my reading, I'll call it a career, and obviously it's not a career, but through my learning, my reading journey on Facebook stories, is that you can have 80,000 readers, and out of the 80,000 readers, some people are just bored and they go in there to spend time, and those are the people that you'll find in your comments saying, when is the next insert? Those are the people that you're gonna find in your inbox saying, hey, you've been quiet for over a week. Those are the people that are first to comment when you say, guys, I have a headache, I won't be able to. I think if we're thinking about how we develop ourselves, and just, I think, sharing with you a bit of how I got to do these series is I have this book that I feel I need to write. It's been a long time. I've had people say write, and I've had the voices in my head say write, and when you put words down, it's like, okay, so I'm in one chapter, I've written 3 chapters, it doesn't sound like what I want. And I think one of my struggles in terms of developing myself is that I went from reading to loving to write to almost being a writer coach and then to editing. So now when I have to put words down for my story, I get lost in reader, coach, writer, editor space, that it just got frustrating. And when you saw at the beginning that the Healing the Healer series is the title, is that the book that I'm meant to write is called Healing the Healer. So at one point when I was bargaining with my voices, I figured, okay, why not do, because I spend a lot of time, I'm a TikToker now, so I spend a lot of time doing these videos, and why not then tell my story, including the people that would have been characters in my story, in a visual manner. So here we are. I'm calling all the
That's
people
creative.
that so I'm
That's
calling
very
up
creative.
all the people that would have been part of my story, and probably I wouldn't know how to tell, because it's different for me to say, when I'm home, bored, depressed, stressed, I escape by reading a story on Facebook. If you were to read that in a book, it wouldn't make sense. But if you were to sit and listen to me engaging Nomcebo, who's one of the stories I read, it's a whole different ball game, and you get to understand why it means so much for me. Even if we're thinking about this interview that was meant to take an hour, and we're almost 2 hours and more in, because there's so much to tell and there's so much to learn. So in terms of your self-development, I think you started off as, I'm just writing a story on Facebook. You discovered that there's exposure in PDF, and you're probably aspiring to have an actual published book. But there's so much that you need to learn and explore with the different avenues that can give you the commercial benefit of telling your story. So do you have any plans of how you're going to get yourself out there even more?
Okay, so I think it's mostly just the selling of PDFs. For now, I think I'm focused on raising funds
Mm-hmm.
for that,
Okay.
which is for publishing, which is why I'm also selling the PDFs on my side. But I find that I think with Facebook, it doesn't get any better than Facebook
Mm.
as far as exposure goes, because I think that's where you like a lot of people come across your work,
Yes.
and that's where you actually develop a fan base. So there's these dedicated people that are just like, we love your work, whatever
Yes.
you do, we love it. So I guess, yeah, that's the platform for me on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But also I feel like even with the PDFs, the ones that bought, for me, it's, I do not want to point to success as a certain number. Like, okay, if I
Okay.
get 100, then I'm successful. I feel like if you have these, even if it's 10 people that are just like, we love your work,
Yeah.
we will buy your work,
Mhm.
that already makes you successful, because these people know, okay, this person can do this and that and that. So even with with publishing it, I think it would be the same thing. As long as these people know that you're good, you can write, and they buying, for me, that's enough. I try not to be too ambitious, because that
Yes.
leads to disappointment.
Mm. Okay. All right. But keep growing yourself. I think I've shared this with you before that I love your work. I love the way you share your story. And if I think about how in my head, because obviously, with as readers, we have our own version of what the writer should do, just like we have with characters and everything else. We
Yes.
have an opinion about other people, and especially for the things that we don't want to do for ourselves. So, in terms of your next, for me, I would love to see you having developed from the person who wrote on Facebook to, yes, you've done PDFs, but to have an actual book that has your name on it. But I think one of the things I shared with you was that it would be so lovely to actually have a screenplay of the Noble Boys and all the other characters, that touch and influences. But it for me, it's just that those Noble Boys are the central characters, and then influenced by their different partners and life circumstances. But like, I would really like to switch on Netflix or TV or whatever, and actually see the Noble Boys series where you'll have the storyline you had for Mutual Desires dominate, and but yes, have that, be the person that follows in Dudu's footsteps, where we all wanted the Zulu Boys, and here we are now. She is about to launch on Showmax. So what is your next? But I think if someone is viewing this video now and they've never been exposed to your work, where do they find you, and what is next for Nomcebo?
What's next for me is, okay, obviously, as I said, I am planning on selling another PDF, but
Okay.
it's also just, as I said, raising funds enough for me to actually then publish. Uh, yes, but then it's also to grow myself, like storytelling wise. Um, yeah, to grow myself, my skills and abilities.
Okay.
Yeah, to educate more people, I guess. And then yes, outside of writing, then it's just education, furthering my own education.
Awesome, awesome. And meeting new characters that you're going to tell us about. And do you think that your theme will always be similar? If you were to tell a different story, would you be able to start another series, or you will see how the end of the current one, or where it leads you to? Because I know you hinted a promise. Imagine a hinted promise. So we have a hinted promise about Fuzelihla's story, and that's your PDF that you're working on, right? Is there another character that's shouting like, "Talk about me next"?
Okay, it's her, and it's her significant other in the book. Yeah, I'm going to try and really stay away from the people from the design series. Like, I need them gone
Okay,
for
okay.
this
So this
one.
is the end of the series.
Yes, but not really. Maybe because in the story, Fuza is quite close to. She has gotten close, or she's quite close to Emma, because they both
Yes,
trans women, so they know what it's like. So Temasek would probably be one of the few people that you see.
yes,
But as far as like the Ngobo brothers, they also, especially Sibani, he's like, even Spalo, like all of them, they're
yes.
protective, but but I feel like Sibani goes overboard
Mm,
with the protection. So he'd probably just, because of what happened to
yes,
Ufuzi, he'd probably be the one that wants to constantly protect her because he loves his family, and he's this person that, likes to protect family. He doesn't care for much
yes.
except his family. So I think he'd also just appear once in a while for that, because there's this new guy, and who's this guy? But as far as this new story or the PDF, it will mostly focus on Ufuze, and it will mostly focus on Umhlengi, like
Yes.
the male protagonist,
Yeah.
and his story as well. But the desires, the people from desires, they'll appear once in a while.
Yes.
Once
Yes.
in a while.
Okay.
And then as for tackling new themes, I think I'd be able to tackle new themes. I just need to be done with these people because
Mm.
someone did mention Uti, they would like a story on lesbians this time, on two women loving each other. I
Yes.
thought, or trans men, no, I thought it would be a good idea. So yeah, as soon as I'm
Okay.
done with the PDF, I think I'll move on to that.
Okay. That is truly, truly, truly amazing. I loved every minute of spending so much time with you. And I
Me
think
too.
for for my self development, this is the first time I haven't had to stop start the recording so many times. It just flowed. So you influenced me in that manner. So know that you contributed to my growth, even
Thank
though
you.
we couldn't stop talking.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for accepting to do the interview and be part of this conversation, and be my very second episode of the Healing the Healer series. I think I just wanted to mention that, not just contributing to this actual video, but also to many nights that I've spent reading your stories and introspecting about my beliefs, about relationships, about family, how I relate to my gay friends, how I would like to meet and be friends with the Temasigo in real life, and I found that I think what made me relate to you so much is in on my actual journey in real life of healing the healer. I was drawn or attracted to a lot of gay men that had emotional trauma. So when we would
Mm.
sit and chat as friends, I would realize that they kind of go through similar problems that we females have in relationship. I think we tend to view men as they don't have emotions, they don't show emotions, the hard nuts to crack. Men are just in it for the sex, but I kept attracting the males that either had mommy issues or daddy issues, or just could not find themselves in relationships, and they hurt as much if what started as a fling, and then they fall in love and now they're stuck because I am in a situationship and I'm in love with this guy. So it helped me to kind of relate to them, to also actually then refer them to your story, to say, go read and see if you can recognize yourself, also just be able to also escape, because you may have personal problems, but hey, embongolwane is yabuya. So maybe you can laugh about other people's problems and forget yours, or you can learn a thing or two from there. So I'm really, really grateful for your presence, and not just in the video, but your presence in the Facebook community. Your existence, there was a reason you were here, and for actually taking up your calling and purpose and being courageous enough to write the story. So very well done. I am
Thank you.
wishing you the best with whatever else you tackle next, and I'll always be by your corner. I'm waiting for you to send me that manuscript and say it's ready. I'm about to get published. Dot my sentences and cross my T's, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I also enjoyed this talk so much because I ramble a lot about my characters to my writer friends. So
Yes.
it was nice to talk to someone else about them and
Mm-hmm.
what inspired me to, I guess, come up with them. And, Yeah, I just enjoyed every minute of this on my side as well. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you to everybody else for tuning in. Please do tune in next week. I can't reveal who the guest is yet, but it will be a pleasure to have another person on the seat sharing their story and helping us build the Healing the Healer series. Until next time, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Get a notification for the next person who will be part of the series. Until next time, love and light to all. Thanks, Mom. Bye.